Hello, everybody. How are we doing? Great to see everyone here, and a very warm welcome to Mark Johnston that we have here today. Hi, Mark. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well, thanks, Emma.
Fantastic. And Mark, we're international today. Mark is being interviewed from Australia. It can't be any more further away than from where we are today. So I feel very glamorous, and as if, you know, we've got a superstar in our midst who's calling in just from Australia. So thanks for doing that. And today we are going to talk about Mark's journey. I feel very fortunate. I was there at the beginning. We'll go into a bit more detail at the beginning of his journey, and I have just seen him absolutely blossom and create an incredible business. He already was and had so many resources, so much expertise, but he's really honed that into his property business. So we will be learning lots and lots from him today. And just to touch on a few of those things, to keep you all honed in, is Mark is in Australia and he can run his business still from Australia. He is actually getting a property ready remotely from Australia. He has a booking for a property where there hasn't even been any pictures out on the marketplace, and he is not putting in the furniture. So if you want to hear how you can do that too and be able to have that kind of more remote lifestyle, then let's listen out for that. So Mark, welcome. For those who perhaps don't know you, could you just give us a brief background, a very brief background into who you are, perhaps where you live, all of those kind of things?
Yeah, sure. So I'm an ex-finance director. I live in Northamptonshire. Got into property about 7 or 8 years ago. Went full time about 3 years ago, and I have a 19-year-old daughter studying at Bristol Uni Forensic Science. And it was a very last minute decision that she's actually here with me in Australia.
Wow.
She's finished her first term and was a bit of a loose end, so she's decided to join us.
Well, that would have been a hard decision, but I'm sure somebody had to do it, didn't they? And I went to Bristol as well. So, and I also did science. And I remember all my friends, I actually missed more lectures per week than they even had lectures, because they were all doing non-sciencey ones. So yeah, I know she'll be working really hard there. Great. Well, let's jump in. So you and I met at Touchstone Education. I don't know, must have been, I can't remember, a number of years ago now. 4?
3. I think it's about 3 years.
3 years ago. It used to be in those days when I was working with Touchstone, that we used to have mastermind tables, didn't we? And I remember you coming onto the table, and we had a number of sessions where I helped kind of just mentor you, give you some ideas. And I do remember that you just had so many skills. You clearly already had a really great business sense. You already had all of those kind of things. So it was a real pleasure sort of meeting you. So so you said you'd already been in a bit of property. So give us just a bit of that background to your property before kind of we met.
Yeah, so I'd had a number of buy-to-lets previously. And then the next property I purchased, which was to be a buy-to-let, I decided to turn it into a service accommodation. I'd had a bit of experience of service accommodation with my own home, because I used to travel a lot with my previous jobs through Africa and Asia, and I'd be away for months at a time. So I sort of a bit of a side hustle, dabbled, for 3 or 4 years. But then I thought I'd maybe try and take this a bit more seriously. I've done a full-time service accommodation property, and really enjoyed it, and wanted to take it to the next level. I just thought, during lockdown, like a lot of other people, reevaluate things, and I thought, no, I'm gonna take a leap of faith and do this full time. but wanted to invest in my education. Hence why I joined Touchstone, to find out how I could scale the business using various other property strategies.
Fantastic. I love it. I love it. And so, yeah, so you jumped on, you got your education, and you, as you said, you were actually coming on, to get a bit of help perhaps with the serviced accommodation, but you were also looking at other strategies. And this is massive, isn't it, for everyone, Mark? Everyone jumps in and they kind of like, I love it when people have been, especially with Touchstone, they do a 2-day weekend. And I love people going on that because it just opens your mind up to so much information. But it has an extreme, doesn't it? Because then you have there's so many things that you can do in property. I call it the shiny penny syndrome. So what made you start to hone down and decide to actually concentrate on serviced accommodation?
So the major factor I had was to replace the income from leaving my job. Because I probably done it the wrong way around. I left my job first. But the way my mind worked, I knew that it would really concentrate my mind, because I had to replace my income. If I had a job on the side and trying to do property, there's always that sort of comfort blanket of your monthly salary. So I needed to really concentrate and replace my income. And the quickest way that I could see doing that with the skills I already had was scale my service accommodation business. So that's when I started to look at the sort of rent-to-rent model as well, because I've seen that as the quickest way of scaling. So they were the two that I followed. Like you say, I did feel a little bit. I was looking at other people trying to do the other strategies, and I felt like I was missing out a little bit, but I knew I had to concentrate on what I needed to do. I put the blinkers on and put my head down.
And I have to say, like, it is one of the things that I talk a lot about to, people that I mentor or people that I talk to when you meet at networking events, and the ones that don't make a decision to get help. Usually it takes them years and years if they ever get going. And it is because of that. We always talk a lot about, you can read a book, but of those books that you've read, how many have you implemented everything? You can take an online course, but how much have you implemented? How do you know to take that situation and apply it to your personal life? But what you've done is you've taken one strategy and you've stuck to it until successful. And that is just huge, because what people tend to do is they'll get 1 or 2 SA units. They haven't quite got their income. And then it's like, oh, and now I might do an HMO, and now I might try this, and now I might. And suddenly it's like pushing like a snowball up a hill, isn't it? As soon as you get to the top and you've got this massive snowball and you go over the peak, suddenly it gets easier. You've still got issues and there's still big bits that fall off, but it gets easier, doesn't it? And that's exactly what you've done. But even within that, I mean, obviously, I know you don't just have rent to rent and things like that. But so how did you sort of decide on, an area? That was a little plug, by the way. Decide on your area. And did you just stay with rent to rent?
No. So I purchased a property, and it was literally across the road from me. So the property was actually a mirror version of the property I was living in. So I knew its layout, and I knew the area. And we'd spoken before about your strategy about the goldmine area, within a 45-minute drive. So I was, well within that. And I found myself, I was popping over there so often, and all that. I was like, this isn't sustainable. But I had the comfort of, if anything did go wrong, that I could go over there. So then I started to sort of, okay, let me try and run this without visiting the property, which sounds weird, but it was only across the road, because I knew where I wanted to go. in terms of the business and what I wanted to do, and that was to work remotely. So in effect, I was testing that remote model out with a property right across the road from me. So the next couple of properties I got were rent to rents in the next two towns. Actually, one of them I took on as tried to follow a different strategy. I took a 5-bed HMO one, but I repurposed it in the end because I repurposed it into a smaller part hotel, which is still running now. So it's basically service accommodation. Yes, again, I didn't need to visit those very often at all. I just outsourced outsourced the interior design, the furnishing, the cleaning, the maintenance. I just outsourced as much as I could, pretty much everything.